Our producer, Matt Sunday, handling the video stream. You can watch us at wvmetronews.com. Go to wvmetronews.com and go to MetroNews TV, MetroNews Television. Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank, member FDIC. So we're going to talk first about the Blankenship case. Jury deliberations continued this morning. They started late yesterday afternoon, got about an hour under their belt. So we'll get to that in a moment. But also coming up this morning, we'll go live to Paris, overnight raid for those responsible for the attack on Friday night. Get the very latest on that. Chris Steiwalt, Fox News digital politics editor, joins us at 10:45. 11:06, John Deskins, director of WVU's Bureau of Business and Economics Research, will join us because he has details on his study about right to work. So we'll get to that and more. And also, tweet me. Phone number, by the way, is 1-800-765-8255, 1-800-765-TALK. Email me, talkline at wvmetronews.com. Text me 304-TALK 304. Tweet me at Hoppy Kercheval. Do you think the jury will convict or acquit Don Blankenship? Remember, there's 3 charges against him. First charge has 2 parts. Violation of safety, a conspiracy to violate mine safety laws, and also the obstruction of the Mine Safety Health Administration. That's the first part is generally lumped into the mine safety violations. That's one. Second one is lying to the Securities and Exchange Commission. And the third count is lying to investors about safety procedures at Massey. So what do you think the jury is going to do? Harvey Payton's been our legal analyst throughout, joins us this morning. Harvey, good morning. Let's start with the closing arguments yesterday, and let's start with the prosecution. Not everything, but just give us what did the prosecution bring home yesterday?
Well, the prosecution did an excellent job of hitting the defendant right where it hurts. They started off immediately talking about the coal miners, the individual coal miners who had testified early on in this case regarding the uncontradicted abysmal conditions that existed at the Upper Big Branch mine and the general attitude of management at least at the mine level regarding compliance with mine health and safety laws. Mm-hmm. They showed photo pictures of each witness to the jury as U.S. Attorney Goodwin recited portions of their testimony, and then played for the jury excerpts from the taped telephone conversations that Mr. Blankenship did for himself, and particularly emphasized that in which he allegedly characterized from the position of the government, the safety program at Massey as, quote, propaganda. Mm-hmm. And then Mr. Goodwin quit. That's it.
Yeah.
Here it is. Bam. And stopped.
And what did he also, I thought, had an interesting analogy to a drug kingpin and said you don't have to account for every drug sale to be the kingpin, and Blankenship was the kingpin.
Right. You don't need a smoky room with guys sitting around a table, and you don't have to cover every drug sale to make a kingpin guilty of conspiracy. If he's, that's a very strong point, and it tied into the closing then that Mr. Ruby made. But in the middle, of course, the defendant had an opportunity to respond.
And what was the defense's closing?
Well, significantly, the defense completely did not discuss at any length the testimony of the miners, period. The defense began by saying, this is a case of maybes. Maybe he did this. Maybe he did that. Talked about Mr. Blanchard's testimony, the unindicted co-conspirator, who really the defense flipped on cross-examination into a witness for Blankenship. Mm-hmm. Got him to make a lot of statements that were supportive of the defense, which were shown to the jury. And, Mr. Taylor, who's been around a while, he used the ask yourself these questions, and, of course, laid out questions that have no answer. I mean, where was this witness? Where was that witness?
Which is a good technique. I mean, you don't have to, because the prosecution didn't necessarily have to answer those questions. But if you create in the minds of the jurors, like, what about this? Here's this question that wasn't answered. Well,
right. It's an old and accepted criminal defense technique to ask the jury unanswerable questions, hoping that they will pursue those down various routes and conclude, if we can't answer these, we can't do anything, and we've got to acquit this person.
But didn't Steve Ruby, the assistant prosecutor, come back with a rebuttal to that very point?
Right, and at the conclusion of his argument, Mr. Taylor may have overplayed his hand, and said, this early warning at the mine would have happened if Don Blankenship had never been born, and we shouldn't even be here, and closed his notebook and sat down, and Mr. Ruby then closed for the government, I thought in a powerful way by getting right back to what the government wanted to emphasize and said, well, let me ask you 5 questions, ladies and gentlemen. You ask yourselves, and these 5 questions can have an answer. And pointed at Mr. Blankenship, said, did this man participate in a conspiracy? And then recited, the micromanagement techniques and memos and telephone calls and handwritten notes that are just abundant in the case to show that Blankenship, down to the approval or disapproval of a bill for $750 for some incidental repairs to a machine, which he rejected, took time to write ridiculous and rejected it. I mean, that is the level of control that the government has clearly shown Mr. Blankenship had over Massey.
So Ruby, resetting what the state wants, what the government wants you to believe. The questions really.
Yeah, let's not talk about what we can't prove. Let's talk about what we did prove.
Yeah. Harvey Payton's with us, legal analyst for the Don Blankenship trial. Let me go though to the instructions, which I've read, and I think it's interesting because if the jury looks at these instructions and takes them absolutely literally, and all 12 members say we're going to follow these instructions word for word, as I read those, it really pushes the bar up for the federal government in some ways because, Harvey, you say, well, was Blankenship involved in all these activities day to day? Yes. Was he a micromanager? Yes. But the instructions specifically say that having knowledge, that just having knowledge of safety problems, of even being indifferent to safety problems, of being sort of lackadaisical or knowing that others were not following safety rules, that those things don't constitute a conspiracy.
That's correct, unless there is an agreement, tacit or express, between 1 or 2 or more individuals to carry out that result. The fact that you may see someone committing a crime, not agree with them in the commission, not further the commission, but just ignore it, be indifferent to that fact, or uncaring is not a crime. But agreeing, entering into an agreement, that's not a bad idea to do that. And I think let's just keep that up because things are looking good here and we're making a lot of money. So, okay. I mean, that was there somewhere along the line in Don Blankenship's mind let's do that, and communicated to what were referred to by the government as his yes man. I mean, we're talking
that would constitute conspiracy.
It would.
Okay, if he agreed to those things and was a willing participant in the agreement to those things. Okay, let me go to the possible verdicts here, Harvey, and that is there are 3 counts. The first count really has 2 parts, and that is a violation of conspiracy to violate safety regulations at the mine, and the second part is obstructing the Mine Safety and Health Administration in their inspections of the mine. The second count is lying to the Securities and Exchange Commission about the safety procedures at Massey, and the third count is lying to investors about safety procedures at Massey. So 3 primary counts. The first one has 2 parts. What do you think where's the federal government's best case in these 3, in your opinion?
Well, to me, the best case after yesterday, I mean, the one thing that the defense cannot get around, and if they could have, they would have, is the testimony of the miners about the conditions that prevailed over an extended period of time at Upper Big Branch. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of violations and conditions that were described in detail by these miners during a period of time when there was at least a lot of talk at Massey about safety. So if the jury puts all this together, I mean, I can easily see the jury say, well, look, these shenanigans didn't go on over 18 months or 2 years or 3 years with this number of violations. The way this man ran this company, unless he knew about it, condoned it, and okayed it, right? The big picture is, our reasonable inference is, this started at the top, and it's an agreement that went all the way down to the mine floor. So, that could easily be done by the jury because at the bottom of the day, there's no contradiction to what actually was happening.
That and the conditions and the violations at the mine. So it's a reasonable conclusion to suggest that these excessive violations at the mine would not be there but for Blankenship participating in it.
Right, and agreeing to it, at least tacitly approving and agreeing with his underlings that this is what we have to do to make money, because this was a really profitable.
Sure. Now there are two parts to count one, and if he was convicted of violation of mine safety regulations, a conspiracy to violate, that is actually a misdemeanor, up to 1 year in jail. Obstructing Mine Safety Health Administration, that's up to 5 years. The second count, lying to Securities and Exchange, that's up to 5 years. The third one, which really we haven't talked that much about, and I don't think the federal government spent that much on, is the big one, lying to investors about safety procedures at the mine, about the standard for safety at Massey, and that carries up to 20 years in prison.
Right, that's clearly the most serious offense. I mean, that's been the most serious. Obviously, it was the most serious offense with which he was indicted, and the government spent some time on it in their closing, because in the strongest of language, it was always, both for Mr. Goodwin and Mr. Ruby, that Mr. Blankenship agreed to do this, he conspired to do this, and then, ladies and gentlemen, he lied about it. And not the word misrepresented, he lied about it to protect his investment. Mm-hmm. He lied about it. And at the end of the day, Mr. Ruby's concluding paragraph or so is he did it, he conspired to do it, and then he lied about it, and it's time for justice. It's been 5 years. It's time to do the right thing. And, it was a pretty powerful thing. He just called him a liar. Mm-hmm. He just says he lied about it. And, the jury can grasp that's a simple concept. Well, it's an ambiguous phrase. If you put it in context, it was a hurried time. But, it is a lie. It's not true. Mm-hmm. I mean, the idea that no one condoned violations, or that the company wouldn't tolerate even a single violation, is just not true. I mean, there's no evidence of that. They never had a plan to get violations to zero. Now, well,
nobody can get violations to zero.
Sure,
I mean, that's
you can, of course. That's one thing that the jury may not be as cognizant of. No business.
No. And some of those are misleading when you say. I mean, some of these were very serious violations. Some of them were very minor. So there's a context there. So Harvey, do you want to go on record today as to what you think the jury's going to do?
Well, opinions are like noses. Everybody has one. I've listened to all the testimony, almost all of the testimony in the case, and my thought would be the jury will probably convict him of at least one of these conspiracy counts, and probably one of the securities counts. More likely the statement to shareholders, which is the one after he edited that statement to shareholders. I mean, if he had a formed criminal intent in his mind not to complete this statement to make it less misleading, that was all done at the same time. I mean, the SEC filing, that was using the same statement but filing it with the government 2 days later.
So you think they're going to convict him of count 1 and count 3?
Well, that would be my thought. I mean, for what it's worth, as a person looking at it from a lawyer's standpoint. Now, juries can look at it from any standpoint.
Sure.
I mean, but from a lawyer's standpoint, given the evidence in the case and the fact, I just think that in most prosecutions, the state has an edge because people believe that folks who are indicted have done something. You really have to overcome that. I thought the defense did a really good job. It's a well-lawyered case. The parties, the attorneys acted with absolute decorum. The judge gave Mr. Blankenship a fair trial. The jury was handled well. But at the end of the day, I think the prosecution always has a little bit of an edge, even though they have a heavy burden, because it's Mr. Taylor referred to him as the government in his sort of...
Yeah, so that's like a negative connotation, but if you say,
right, but
the United
Mr.
States
referred
attorney,
to him as the United States.
The United States. That's a
right.
really good point to make. Harvey Payton, I got to leave it there, but obviously we'll have you back when we get a verdict. Good job, Harvey Payton, with his take on the closing arguments. Now, jury deliberations in the Don Blankenship case. Follow along at WVMetroNews.com. As soon as there is a verdict, if in fact there is a verdict, could be a hung jury, we'll have it for you. We'll be right back.
Have you ever wondered just who are the Friends of Coal? Well, there are 50,000 West Virginia families who support the state's coal industry, and they look a lot like you. Honest, hardworking, good neighbors who want a future for themselves and their state. They're coal miners, housewives, school teachers, mechanics, doctors, college professors, pizza delivery guys, your friends. The Friends of Coal know and understand the importance of the coal industry to our state's economy. They know about the 60,000 jobs the coal industry creates in our state. They know about the $25 billion the industry pumps into our economy. And they know that without coal, our state would face an economic catastrophe. Come to think of it, that sounds like most West Virginians. Let Congress know you are a proud West Virginian, and you are a friend of coal.
Coal is West Virginia.
Hunger, injustice, poverty. We see it, but what can we really do? Where is the hope? The hope is in you, and Catholic Charities West Virginia can help you extend hope, grace, and mercy to the most vulnerable in our communities. They're calling all people of goodwill to serve our brothers and sisters mired in poverty, burdened with disease and injustice. Join with Catholic Charities West Virginia and change a world. Visit CatholicCharitiesWV.org because the hope is in you.
You're listening to Talkline on Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
There. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Gosh, cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank, member FDIC. So, police stormed a Paris suburb apartment overnight to try to find those responsible for the bombings and attacks on Friday. Courtney Walsh, Fox News Radio, joins us from Paris with the very latest on that. Courtney, thanks for joining us. What happened overnight, and what's the latest this morning?
Yes, Hoppy. Well, it's 4:10 in the morning when people living in the suburb of Saint-Denis were woken up by multiple explosions and hundreds of gunshots. But it wasn't another attack. It was a police raid on an apartment where authorities had received information suggesting the man suspected to be masterminding Friday's events was inside. But there's no word yet on whether the police found Abdel Hamid Abouad. Authorities saying they're still identifying the people. As police stormed the building, a woman blew herself up. And in fact, we're just getting word right now, Happy, that might have been the cousin of this mastermind, and we still don't have any official confirmation. There was also another male suspect who was killed, apparently by a grenade, and 7 other people were arrested. 2 were found hiding in the rubble from the explosion. So 5 police officers were apparently injured, as well as a neighbor. But now life there in Saint-Denis is slowly getting back to normal. It's a small town in the north of Paris, and it's basically a suburb at this point. Many of the locals were stuck in their apartments during the 6-hour standoff and are finally able to get out, and a lot of them have been talking to reporters about their fears. Some have even gone to the hospital to be treated for trauma. This morning, the raid apparently started as a routine search. There have been apparently some overnight 118 raids, and 23 people were taken to custody. But obviously, this developed into something much more intense, and just sort of augmented this sort of tension in the city.
Courtney Walsh is with us, Fox News Radio in Paris. Courtney, there was one report I heard this morning, or several reports, that said that authorities might have gotten onto this location by a cell phone that they recovered at one of the attack scenes earlier. Is that true?
Exactly. Well, apparently the police found the phone in the garbage right outside of the Bataclan nightclub, which is where, of course, the terrorists had killed so many of the hostages there. And in it, you may recall, was that chilling text, "We are ready." But they also had some links to this apartment. So that is how they apparently, one of the clues. But apparently they also had some other wiretap information and some other surveillance information. So, of course, that was one of the things. Now, we're waiting to find out exactly who was in that apartment and who specifically was arrested. And also finding out, the other suspect who is still at large is the Belgian Saleha Abdel-Salam. And there's apparently also a ninth suspect out there. So we're still waiting for more of the details to find exactly what who these people were. And it's slowly trickling out, and hopefully find out a little bit more later on today.
But Courtney, as you said, this was one of a series of raids. So as we speak, of course, most of them are overnight. There are many, many raids that are going on as authorities follow up on leads and tips, correct?
Yeah, that is correct. President Hollande declared a state of emergency, and during the state of emergency, the laws concerning these raids have been suspended. So normally, under normal times, if a police wants to have a raid, they can only do it between 6 and 8 o'clock in the morning. They have to get there has to be an investigation going on, and a judge has to sign off on it. So you can imagine how much bureaucracy there is. So basically, with the state of emergency, they're able to go in there whenever they want. It's much more active. So actually, what Hollande is trying to do is to get the Parliament to extend the state of emergency, and suspend these kind of laws that have hampered the search so far for another 3 months. And there's yesterday a lot of talk about, concern about, how there's going to be much less civil rights and civil freedoms. But I think basically people today are all on the page. Hollande said, "This is proof. This terror operation, we are at war, and we've got to do what we have to do to get these people."
Courtney Walsh, Fox News Radio in Paris. Courtney, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Pleasure.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, President Hollande repeated that. I was watching his speech this morning, about his country being at war. We're going to take a break and come back. When we come back, this is a hot issue domestically. This thing is smoking right now, and it has to do with whether or not states, communities, the country will take any Syrian refugees. We're going to talk about what's happening in West Virginia on that when we return. This is Talkline on MetroNews, the voice of West Virginia. 10:30, let's get a news update. Check in with the Metro News Radio Network. Find out what's happening statewide this hour, all across the great state of West Virginia.
West Virginia Metro News, I'm Jeff Jenkins. The jury has returned to the federal courthouse in Charleston for deliberations in the Don Blankenship criminal trial. The former Massey Energy CEO allegedly conspired to break mine safety laws and then allegedly lied to federal investment regulators after the 2010 UBB explosion. Metro News legal analyst Harvey Payton, he had a take on the case now that it's in the hands of the jury.
At the end of the day, I don't think anyone will dispute, regardless of the outcome, that this is a just prosecution. It wasn't made up out of thin air. It was based upon an investigation that lasted 5 years, and that was mentioned time and time again to the jury by the defense. The time is now. I mean, Mr. Ruby did a good job of putting the burden on the jury to do their job.
Sherry Kinney DePoy's brother, Boone Payne, died in the UBB explosion. She had this to say after the jury got the case late yesterday as she spoke with Metro News and other reporters.
It's really about accountability. That's all we want is accountability. I mean, I'd like to see a 30-year sentence, but whatever we get, we'll be thankful for. It'll be a little bit because we've got 29 men underground that could put him under.
Metro News is in the courtroom awaiting the verdict. When it comes, we'll have an update at WVMetroNews.com. Outdoor burning still a problem in parts of West Virginia today. The warm and dry conditions, several fires have been reported, could get rain in the state later today. You're listening to Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
Identity theft, the fraudulent possession and use of a person's private identifying information, typically for financial gain. You never think identity theft will impact you until it does. But you can help protect yourself. The West Virginia Attorney General's office suggests you check your credit score often, create strong passwords that change frequently, monitor your bank accounts and credit card statements, shred personal documents, install security software on your computer and phone, and avoid public Wi-Fi connections. For more information on identity theft, call the Consumer Protection Hotline at 800-368-8808.
I'm Chris Lawrence, and I love it when you send me pics of the game and fish you've bagged. I show them off at the outdoors page of WVMetroNews.com in the Ram Trucks Trophy Room. But now we've stepped it up a notch. Each month from now through January, we'll have a random drawing of those who send us a picture for really cool prizes. See how to enter and submit your trophy pics at the outdoors page of WVMetroNews.com. Make it a tasteful photo, and if it's a trophy to you, it's a trophy to us. The Ram Trophy Room at the outdoors page of WVMetroNews.com.
A Berkeley County law firm says it's cooperating with a federal investigation. The law firm of Martin and Seabird was raided Tuesday at its main office in Martinsburg. A statement released by the firm says FBI agents seized property from the firm's headquarters on Winchester Avenue and detained employees working there. You can read more at WVMetroNews.com. Some state lawmakers meeting at the state capitol today. They're talking about the Above Ground Storage Act and the rules associated with that new law. From the Metro News Anchor Desk, I'm Jeff Jenkins.
Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank, member FDIC. Don't wait too long to get your DNR ID number. You'll need it from now on in order to check game. It's easy to get a number. Log on to WVHunt.com to get started. Once you have your ID number, when you check your game, you can do it by calling 844-WV-CHECK. Log on to WVHunt.com or stop by a licensed agent, but you do need the DNR ID number. If you don't have one, go to WVHunt.com. WVHunt.com, and there you get your ID number. So there's been a lot of blowback concerning the immigration of Syrian refugees, which have flooded Europe, and the United States making plans to take in thousands of refugees. On a federal level, Capitol and Manchin both have said, well, we ought to wait on this a while and see and make sure all our I's are dotted and T's are crossed. Meanwhile, governors of, last check, 27, 28 states have said we're not taking any, even though there's some question about whether they have jurisdiction there. And in West Virginia, delegates Josh Nelson, a Republican from Boone County, and Michael Moffitt, a Republican Putnam County, said they're going to introduce legislation that would give the state the authority and the final say over taking Syrian refugees. Delegate Nelson joins us on Metro News Talkline. Josh, good morning. How are you?
Hey, Hoppy. Good to be with you, sir. How you doing?
I'm fine. Thanks for coming on. Why are you doing this?
Well, Hoppy, what the legislation would do is it would basically make it so that the state would not be allowed to allocate resources or funding without approval of the legislature first until the people who are elected to represent the citizens of West Virginia are confident that a proper vetting process is in place.
Why are you concerned about this specifically? I mean, what do you think the threat? And you have a background in the military. You're in, I believe you were in the Marines, and now you're in the reserves. You're in the Marines, right? Still in the Marines, right?
No, I was in the Marine Corps, in the Air National Guard, sir.
In the Air National Guard. So, what do you think? Do you think there's a legitimate threat level in this country from Syrian refugees?
Well, I just saw a headline this morning that said that there were refugees posing as, operatives posing as refugees that just tried to enter Turkey, and then one of the attackers in Paris had a Syrian passport. So it's not the refugees in particular that citizens are as concerned about. It's the people who are posing as refugees.
The Governor Tomlin's office has issued a statement, and they said the following. The Governor's office has not been contacted by the Federal Department of Health and Human Services, Office of Refugee Resettlement, regarding large-scale placements of Syrian refugees. That's according to Chris Stadelman, a communications director for the governor. Quote, and we do not anticipate a federal request for placement of refugees in West Virginia. So is West Virginia even going to be on the list to receive any of these refugees?
Well, I think the wording of that statement is very careful to say large scale. Currently, we do know that there are organizations working to bring 100 or so into Charleston. So that's a concern. And regardless, Bobby Jindal I believe down in his state, stated that he wasn't even contacted before the refugees came into their state. And also there are some reports saying that there was a conference call with governors around the country trying to request information about these refugees, and they're just simply not getting it. And that's a big concern. Governors are concerned about what's going on in their states when they're not getting information. That's worrisome.
Josh Nelson's with us, Republican delegate from Boone County. And, Josh, I think it's understandable that given what happened in Paris, everybody's antenna is up. Everybody's concerned about the possibility of an attack. Everybody's alert. And plus, immigration is a huge issue in this country. But it looks like the vast majority, I mean, almost everyone who is part of this diaspora coming through Europe and maybe eventually coming to the United States are just simply people trying to escape a war-torn area. As a veteran, you can probably appreciate that. People just trying to get the hell out of the way.
Absolutely, Hoppy, and that's my heart goes out to those people. And I don't know hardly anybody that says, "Hey, we don't want to help when we can." But let me ask you this: if you had a bag of Skittles and you thought that maybe one of those might be poison, and you're not sure, would you eat it?
Well, no, I get your analogy there. Do you think there should be just you want the legislature to take whatever action just to have an absolute blockade, or do you want to say, no, we have to have some sort of measures in place that if Syrians are coming here or people part of this exit from Syria, that there has to be a more thorough check? And what would that check include?
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that we should completely block it. I agree with Senator Capito and Senator Manchin that we just need to be darn sure that the process is adequate. And maybe one thing would be, I know we do have some citizens in West Virginia that are fantastic members of our society that happen to be of Syrian ascent. I mean, maybe some of their family members might have a connection there that would help that process, things of that sort. And I'm not an expert on the process, but we do know that it's clear, especially in Paris, that one of the guys was posing as a refugee. So to say that the process is fail-proof or maybe strict enough, I'm not ready to say that yet.
Okay, Delegate Josh Nelson, Republican, Boone County. Josh, thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely, Hoppy. Hope you have a great day.
All right, you too. Thank you very much. The governor's office standing by their original statement, that is, it has not been contacted by federal government about this, does not expect any large-scale settlements. But I tell you, this has produced more response than it's just a tremendous amount of response. I did hear, and then President Obama said, now you're trying to keep out women and children, you're taking out women and children. Others are saying we're trying to take steps to make sure there's greater security. A couple of observations about this, personal observations. One is that it is understandable that given the attacks in Paris, that people would be concerned about security. That's number one. Number two is that we have not had, nor are there planned, any large-scale settlements of Syrian refugees in this state. Number three, there is a legitimate question as to whether the states could even do anything if they wanted to, because if the federal government, from what I've read, does have jurisdiction. The federal government wants to say, we're going to do whatever on federal land. I don't think there's a lot the state can do about that. Number four, I heard Charles Krauthammer had an interesting proposal. Krauthammer said, what if you said that concerning people who you're trying to let in, who are fleeing these areas, that you let in women and children and men over 50 who are not of fighting age. That was just his idea as a way to approach this. And finally, sixth and finally, is I have a very, very strong feeling about about America being a place that can offer security and relief for those who are fleeing some of the worst conditions that exist in the world. So that's just that's where I start, and then I got to work backward from that. But that's where I begin. And then you have to sort back from that. I really do not want to get into the knee-jerk, just lock everything down. But anyway, that's where we are. 1-800-765-8255, 1-800-765-TALK. Email Talkline at wvmetronews.com. Send me a text, 304-TALK-304. Tweet me at Hoppy Kercheval. One of the favorite holiday traditions in West Virginia, everywhere, is the lighting of the Christmas tree. This year, take your whole family to Martinsburg. Join friends, neighbors, and visitors November 27th. November 27th, as Martinsburg celebrates the holiday season with the hometown Christmas tree lighting on the square in Martinsburg. Great tradition. You'll find it here. Wild, wonderful West Virginia, 6 o'clock, November 27th. And Santa, of course, will be there. When we come back, Chris Steiwalt, Fox News digital politics editor, coming up next. Stay with us.
There are things that make our lives easier.
You know, locking shoelaces, pizza scissors, remote control mops, one-hand bottle cap openers, and the Know Before You Go driving app.
It's free travel information on West Virginia highways, traffic congestion, work zones, road conditions, information that can make your travel easier. Log on to WV511.org or download the WV511 Drive Safe app.
Know Before You Go. It'll make your life easier.
This Saturday, the West Virginia University Mountaineers travel to Kansas for another Big 12 matchup. Join MetroNews for the best, most listened to game day coverage. The pregame fun starts at 9 a.m. with the Jeep Golden Blue Countdown, followed by the Sports Brunch. Game line kicks off at high noon. Then postgame analysis begins at 3 with the Golden Blue Wrap-Up, brought to you by the West Virginia Oil and Natural Gas Association. Don't miss game day coverage at its best, beginning Saturday morning at 9, right here on MetroNews, the voice of West Virginia.
This is Talkline on Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
We used to think all lung cancer was the same.
But now we know there are several different molecular types of lung cancer.
By performing molecular testing on a lung cancer tumor, doctors can try to determine what's causing it to grow, which can help identify treatment options.
Not all lung cancers are the same. Talk to your doctor to see if molecular testing is appropriate for you. And visit lungcancerprofiles.com. That's lungcancerprofiles.com. A public service of 6 leading lung cancer advocacy groups and Pfizer Oncology.
Okay, so 5 tacos of cheese and a large soda, that's $10,012. Please drive around.
Wait, 10,000 what?
It's obvious you're buzzed and driving.
I've only had a few. I'm fine.
Yeah, the food's $12, but getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Please drive around. Actually, just park and come in.
Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
If you want to be an adoptive parent, it doesn't matter if you're a little different.
I'm a box troll. Oh, really?
What you look like.
Your ears aren't pointy. I slept on them funny.
Or what you sound like. You just need to be there. You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care don't need perfection. They just need you. Call 888-200-4005 or visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
He wanted to be known for doing his best.
Sure, right.
His best made him Major League Baseball's most valuable player.
Strike 2.
He played in 6 World Series and was elected to the Hall of Fame. Although an honest man, he was best at stealing home. But the best quality of Jackie Robinson's life was his character. So here's to you, Mr. Robinson. Thanks for passing it on. From the Foundation for a Better Life at Values.com.
Welcome back to Talkline, presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank, member FDIC. Please welcome Chris Steiwalt, Fox News digital politics editor.
Dude.
So your cohort, Howard Kurtz, wrote that now it's time in this campaign, given the events of the last couple of days, to put on the big man's pants in the campaign, or the big girl's pantsuit, whatever you want to put on, and how you will deal with, and how adults would deal with a very, very serious issue. I don't mean to dismiss your laughter. I mean, I was just trying to make it.
Well, Big Girl Pantsuit is the name of the improv troupe that I believe Greg Thomas is putting together. So you can go check out that show.
Oh.
Look, world events change candidates, and they also change voters.
Right.
Okay, so when we think about how they change, and the two obviously are interrelated. So how did you've watched? It's been interesting. So Jeb Bush, who's trying very hard to get back in to at least, there was a poll out in Colorado today from Quinnipiac. He's at 2%.
Yeah. So I want to ask you about that poll too, because I thought that was a blue state. But go ahead.
Okay, so you have candidates who are trying to get in the mix. Bush is saying, well, we should have a priority for Christians and not Muslims. And then Ted Cruz said, well, how about no Muslims? And then Marco Rubio, I guess Rubio had already said it, how about nobody for now when it comes to the refugees? And then the president's fighting back, and then Bush goes and tacks back to, no, it's not about religious tests and da-da-da-da-da. So the candidates change. They alter in relation to each other and in relation to world events. They change. Oftentimes, the candidates change their point of view or their position because of events. But it's voters. So there's two things that happen concurrently. The closer you get to Election Day, right? So, is Jim Justice still running for governor in West Virginia?
Yeah.
Okay, so as you get closer to Election Day, if I'm Jeff Kessler, who I assume, is he still running?
Yeah.
So as I get closer to Election Day, if I'm Jeff Kessler, I figure people are going to say, not going to be Jim Justice. It was it was notional, it was interesting, it was entertaining, but we have to think this through, and we have to think about who's going to do the job and who's going to do that stuff. So that is a natural function of time, right? As you go forward and you get closer to the end, what seemed interesting or notional early seems impractical. And that's just a function of time, because you stop thinking about these people as presidential candidates, you start thinking about them as presidents. So there's that part that happens with just the passage, the proximity to voting. Then there's the other thing that happens. So you can sit and talk with your friends about what President Trump would be like, and it would be, everybody would get those hats, and it would be this, and you would build a big, beautiful wall with a door in it and stuff, and then you say, oh, wait a minute, so he would be president the whole time. There wouldn't be like an alternate president in case we had a international crisis. If that was the night that he was having a rough time with the latest poll numbers and was freaking out about Ben Carson's belt buckle or Ben Carson's friend's belt buckle or off on a Twitter tirade, that he would still be president that night, even if that was when there was a terrorist attack. And so the way that you see these people changes based on the situation you see them in. And those two things work together to get to the end where, and it's sort of like, how did Barack Obama get the Democratic nomination? He got the Democratic nomination because he survived this part of the cycle. So Hillary Clinton had a worry about Bernie Sanders, and clearly still does. But she had a worry about him, which was, what if he passes the test, right? What if he passes the test and Democrats say, yeah, you know what, this guy, he'd be all right. I could see him as president. I could see him winning the general election. And now is that and so the test phase comes along, and obviously Bernard Sanders is not going to be the Democratic nominee because not really. He's a joke. He's Larry David. Forget about him. Barack Obama, who everybody thought would fail that test, that people would say, is this the guy? And they'd say, no, he's not ready. He's too young. His middle name is Hussein. He'll get killed in the general election. There's no chance. Instead, Democrats said, actually, he does pass the test, and we don't want her anyway, so how about it? So you get through this period of time, which is the candidates meet the test. They get better known to their parties. And people start to think of them in plausibility terms, and some candidates pass and some candidates fail. The Republicans have a lot of candidates who are going to fail because they have a lot of candidates. Bobby Jindal quit yesterday. Right. Jeb Bush failed. John Kasich has failed. These people have failed, and they're not going to come back, right?
So will voters then say, when there is something like this, which is a seminal event, is it then, well, I want to know exactly what his or her policy is going to be in Syria, or is it when you know what hits the fan, who do I trust to be in charge?
Right. It's the first Star Waltonian rule of politics, every election is a character election and every election is a trust election, right? Okay. So we care very much. We hire people. The way it works in a republic is we hire people to deal with these issues. Anybody can do, you can do what Jeb Bush, you can do what politicians often do, what Trump often does, which is basically, tell me what you want, and I will say that that's my policy. You tell me what you want, and I will say that that's my policy, and change them, right? do this. I'm for H-1B visas. No, I'm against H-1B visas. You tell me what you want, and then I will make that my policy. Well, of course, that doesn't work because the people don't always know what they want because they don't always know all the facts. So we hire people to be our representatives and to be leaders. We entrust them with this power. So it's not just about a set of policy positions. Yes, there are policy positions that are devastating, that you cannot have, that are signifiers to your party. Like, for example, if you're a pro-choice Republican, it ain't going to happen. If you're a pro-life Democrat, it ain't going to happen.
Right.
That's just, there are certain things that are litmus tests. But by and large, it comes down to, do I trust you, and do I think that you have the right character for this job? And that's how Barack Obama beat Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney beat Obama on the central issue, which was the economy, and people still gave Obama the job because they didn't trust Romney. And they didn't think he had the character requisite for the presidency. And that's how, it wasn't that people loved Obama all of a sudden. It wasn't that all of a sudden people said, oh, this is the greatest president in presidency ever. They said, that other guy's sketchy. I can't take it.
Chris Direwald is with us, Fox News digital politics editor. Could this be right? The Quinnipiac poll says that Carson is not only the leader among Republicans in Colorado, but that he would beat Hillary Clinton, that Rubio leads Hillary Clinton, that Carson leads Hillary Clinton, that Cruz leads Hillary Clinton in Colorado? Am I reading that right?
Everybody leads Hillary Clinton.
In Colorado, which is a blue state.
Well,
okay, it was blue in 2012.
Obama won it twice.
Okay.
Obama won it twice.
That's what I'm going by.
Colorado is a swing state.
Okay.
Colorado has a lot of evangelical voters, which it helps explain why Trump runs third there and Carson runs first with Rubio in second place in the Republican primary. But it also, here's the ultimate challenge for Hillary Clinton. You know, there's a saying in politics, the dogs don't like the dog food. You can package it however you want. You can market it however you want. You can get a different breed of dog if you want. But if the dogs don't like the dog food, they're not going to eat it. And so back to the Jeb Bush example. He said, I run for president. I'll have all the money. I'll be the guy. I have 100% name ID. I have a great strategy for running for office. And if the voters say, we're not really into your legacy jam, dude, then it's not going to happen for you. And there's not a number of ads that you can run. There's not a number of things that you're going to do that are going to make it happen.
Yeah, remember Dick Armey?
Exactly. Whatever, or Sam Nunn, or not Sam Nunn, but from Texas, Phil Gramm.
Yeah.
So the Hillary Clinton problem is this. Americans are hugely resistant, especially in this time, to the idea of a legacy candidate. Right? The idea of an entitled candidate who says, I am here to take what is rightfully mine, and I'm here to have it. So in that way, Hillary Clinton is like a double Mitt Romney for the Democrats. Not only is she a candidate the Democratic base has a hard time getting fired up for, but also she is a person who engenders broad resentment because of the entitlement factor.
Right,
this is a bad cycle to be entitled. So now look, if we get to Election Day, if the Republicans pick Ben Carson, would he really beat her by a bajillion points? No. But it's a strong indication of how sour electorates are on Hillary Clinton.
Got it. Chris Direwald, Fox News digital politics editor. Chris, always a pleasure.
For the people.
We'll be back.
At MVB Bank, we try to pique your interest. So listen up. With our most valuable checking with interest account, you'll earn high interest on your transactions with no monthly fees and nationwide ATM refunds when qualifications are met. With our MVB app and mobile deposit, that's just the beginning. MVB most valuable checking with interest. Now that's highly interesting. Open an account online today at mvbbanking.com or visit one of our convenient local branches. MVB, your financial life made easy. Member FDIC. Imagine a scale and you're trying to balance it. Too much on one side and it sinks, just like our state's economy. When jobs are centered on one or two industries, the balance is off, our economy sinks, and good-paying jobs disappear. West Virginia needs a variety of industries, including fossil fuels, small business, and high-tech jobs to bring balance. The High Technology Foundation works to bring those high-tech jobs here. Ask your legislator if they're helping the High Technology Foundation bring balance to our economy. From the West Virginia High Technology Foundation.
You're listening to Talkline on Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
there. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
Talkline on MetroNews. Text at 304 Talk 304. Hoppy, is it knee-jerk to want to keep my friends and neighbors safe? That is a ridiculous assessment of the situation, says the texter. Another text, Hoppy, I believe women can be just as extreme as men. Wasn't it a woman who blew herself up in France? Yes, it was. Email, Hoppy, put aside the terrorism issue. If West Virginia takes refugees, whether Syrian or Haitian or whatever, where are they going to work? It's not the days of the European migration when those who left the homeland had jobs waiting for them in the coal mines, factories, and timberlands of our state. Half of the work-eligible West Virginians are jobless. We are already assured of a path to bankruptcy. More refugees will quicken the pace, says the emailer. The part of, if you give me, and I'm not talking about the terrorism issue, you give me in West Virginia, in terms of the workforce, somebody who has risked life and limb to get here for a better life and is looking to work in a job that you might be having trouble filling, I think that person in most cases is going to turn out to be a decent worker. And there's jobs out there for those folks. This is Talkline on MetroNews, the voice of West Virginia. Welcome back. Hour number 2 of Talkline on the Metro News Radio Network in and around the great state of West Virginia. Hoppy Kercheval with you. Joe Nelson, our producer. Matt Sunday handling the video stream. You can watch us at wvmetronews.com at Metro News Television. Coming up later this hour, Lise Wheel, Fox's legal analyst, and also WVU women's soccer coach Nikki Izzo Brown. And your phone calls. And what do you think the jury's going to do? Or maybe, well, I think I know what's going to happen here. If I ask, what do you want the jury to do in the Blankenship case? 1-800-765-8255. Email me, talkline at wvmetronews.com. Send me a text, 304-TALK-304. Tweet me at Hoppy Kercheval. As a general rule, I'm not talking about the Syrian issue per se, but I am very pro-immigration for a couple of reasons. One is that because I come from immigrants. My wife's family comes from immigrants. At some point, unless we're Native American, we all do. Land of the free, home of the brave, et cetera, et cetera. But also is that economically, we need immigration. We need people to come to this country to work. You say, well, but they're taking other people's jobs. Well, go pretty much anywhere. I mean, if you get outside of a lot of places in West Virginia, not even that necessarily, who's doing the job? Who's doing a lot of the manual labor entry-level jobs? It's immigrants. It's people who've come here and it's their first job or second job. And why? Because guess what? Folks who've been here won't do it. Won't do it. So, and I'm not trying to be pejorative about this, but who's driving the cabs? Who is picking the vegetables and the fruit? Who is cooking in the kitchen? Who is opening the family-owned restaurant? Who is working on the construction crews? So those jobs are being filled by people who've come here specifically for the desire to work. And I just looked in the paper because somebody said, well, they're taking our jobs here. One, is not true in most cases. And two, look in the paper. Why then, if we got people looking for work, if we have all these people who are looking for work, why are there ads for cooks or kitchen helpers or truck drivers or janitors or any number of things, construction crews? Why? Because they are looking for people who will show up for work, who will work hard, who will pass the drug test and won't steal from them. And it's harder than you think to find those people. And if somebody comes from halfway across the world and they want to work, then God bless them, and let's put them to work. Because they'll work, they'll pay taxes, they'll build a family. That's how it works, folks. That's how it works. John Deskins is an economist, professor, head of the WVU Bureau of Business and Economic Research. And that's not why I'm having you on today, John, but I'm going to sense, well, I wouldn't say you agree with me because you're the economist, but am I right or am I right?
It's interesting that you say that because I was actually just going to throw in there edgewise that, hey, Hoppy, I really agree with you on the immigration issue. Immigration has always been an important driver of economic growth, and it's always been an important driver of American growth, especially. And I'm generally pro-immigrant, not to speak to Syria specifically, but you can put me down as being pro-immigrant. I mean, we need, and you've talked about this a lot, and I'm just not talking about immigrants, but we need people in West Virginia. You say, well, we're taking West Virginia jobs. No, we need people to come here and be a part of the workforce and put down roots, and that's essential to growth. That's essential to growth. Very good point. I mean, I say I'm pro-immigrant from a national perspective, but we need it doubly as bad here in West Virginia. We need immigration. We need people to want to come here. So however much it's important to the national economy, at least double that, and that's how important it is to the West Virginia economy.
Okay, John Deskins is with us, head of WVU's Bureau of Business and Economic Research. Now, John, let me talk about the study that you guys released on earlier this week to lawmakers, which has gotten a lot of buzz, and I want to go over some of the points because it was a thorough review of right-to-work states in this country, states that do have right-to-work states and states that don't, do have right-to-work laws, and states that don't have right-to-work laws. Let's talk about some of your findings. What did you find concerning union membership in those states?
Sure, we find that union membership does fall, in a significant way when you have a right to work policy in place. Just in general, overall union membership in the country right now is about 10%. Private sector union membership is about 10%. That's over the last couple decades, and we think that right to work policy leads to a reduction of about 2 percentage points off of that baseline. So that's a reduction in union membership of about 1/5. So it's a pretty substantial reduction.
So it is your conclusion, based on your study, that if West Virginia passed a right-to-work law, that union membership would decline?
Yes, that's what we believe. If right-to-work enables workers to choose, if you work in a unionized workplace, if you're able to choose whether you're going to pay those union dues or not, we believe union membership will fall by a noticeable margin.
Mm-hmm. And of course, and I'm not going to ask you to comment on this because you're doing the research, but the pushback by unions on that is that, well, if you're at a place and it's strictly an open shop and you don't have to join the union, or you don't join the union, but you still get the benefits that the union provides through negotiations, then you're getting something for free. But that's sort of a secondary issue that I'm not going to ask you to address because that's a public policy issue. That's not a research issue. Now,
but sure, but no, I didn't
go ahead.
The arguments on one side or the other. But I mean, if they're worried about union membership declining, then the numbers indicate that's a legitimate concern because we do expect union numbers to decline. So.
Okay. John Deskins is with us, head of the WVU Bureau of Business Economic Research, a study that a lot of people are talking about concerning right-to-work versus non-right-to-work states. What did your study find concerning employment growth, overall growth in employment, people working?
Well, I'll just get right to the point if you want. We do believe that right to work leads to faster employment growth rates in the long run. Overall, the number that we estimate based on a really careful, thorough analysis says that we believe that across all 50 states, what we've seen over the last couple of decades is that right to work has led to a growth rate, to an increase in the long-term employment growth rate of about 0.4 percentage points per year.
Okay. Do you know? Go ahead.
And that's a sustained increase. We didn't look at short-run numbers. We didn't look at transitional effects. Just over the long run, on a sustained basis, right-to-work states are estimated to grow 0.4 percentage points annually more quickly as a result of that policy.
Now, John, not to get too far out down in the weeds, but so you say as a result of the policy, so you believe, or your research shows, that the increase in employment is caused by right-to-work, or there's simply a correlation?
No, absolutely. I mean, that's why we did the study. If you just look at raw numbers, this is what you find. If you just look at what is, employment growth for right-to-work states versus what is employment growth for non-right-to-work states, you see much faster employment growth in right-to-work states. The same thing is true for output or GDP growth. On the other hand, if you just look at wage and salary rates, you see significantly lower wage and salary rates in right-to-work states. But those basic raw comparisons aren't very legitimate because there's a whole host of factors that could influence these broad macroeconomic outcomes. And you can't just compare the two groups of states and just assume that the outcome differences are attributable to right to work. So the reason we were called on to do this study, the whole point of the study was to do a much more careful analysis to look at a whole host of factors that can influence employment growth, output growth, wage and salary growth, to isolate the specific effect of right to work out from a myriad of other factors that could be contributing.
So it is causation.
That's what we estimate, of course. Okay. Absolutely. Again, no statistical study is perfect,
right?
But based upon careful analysis of data, objective analysis, I had no idea what this was going to say, by the way, when I took up this project. We show that right to work causes faster employment and output growth.
Right to work causes fast employment growth and also faster economic growth. Elaborate on that point, please.
Well, it's just your two basic measures of an economy are how fast is the economy adding jobs and how fast is the economy growing in terms of economic output, GDP. The same basic conclusion holds for both of those basic measures. Employment and output are both growing as a result of right to work.
Okay, John Deskins is with us. He is the director of WVU's Bureau of Business Economic Research, a comprehensive study about the impact of right to work. And they went out. There's a lot of data to compare because a lot of states have right to work, a lot don't, so you can compare it. Now, let me go to another more controversial part, is that you also found that annual wage and salary rates were significantly lower in right-to-work states compared to non-right-to-work states between 1969 and 2013. So specifically, what did you find there?
Exactly. That's the point that the opponents of right to work always point to. We do see significantly lower wage and salary rates in right to work states. But again, a whole host of factors can be contributing to that. For example, southern states tend to be right to work, and going back decades ago, southern states had dramatically lower wage and salary rates. So how much of that differential is because of right to work versus how much of it is due to a whole host of other factors? What we did is we looked at the growth rate in wages and salaries, and we found that you can't actually statistically relate right to work to growth in wage and salary rates. That's different compared to a result with employment and output. But we can't find any statistical relationship between right to work and how fast wages and salaries are growing in the aggregate.
So help me with that, though. I might have lost you there a little bit, or you might have lost me there a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. So tell me again what you just said, but put that down more in lay terms, because I think I lost you there.
Bottom line is this.
You lost me. You lost me. I'm sorry.
You can blame it on me. I'll totally accept that.
No, it's me.
There's no evidence that right to work leads to faster or slower growth in wage and salary rates.
So there's
Does that make sense?
Yes. So there's no evidence that right to work impacts the rate of increase or decrease in wages.
That's right.
Okay.
I do not believe, based on an analysis of all 50 states, actually 48 states, we don't look at Alaska and Hawaii for whatever reason, but based on an analysis of 48 contiguous states over the last couple decades, we find no evidence that wage and salary rates statewide rise or fall more quickly as a result of right to work. So I don't believe that we're going to see a widespread pickup or drop in wage growth in the state if we were to adopt right to work.
But you did find that in right to work states, salaries and wages and benefits tend to be lower, right? But you could not make that. You could not make a causational connection with right to work. Is that correct?
No, that's absolutely 100% correct. Just the raw data show a difference in the average salary and wage rates, but you can't statistically tie it to right to work.
Got it. Okay. You also found employment growth in the manufacturing, construction, mining sectors specifically has been stronger in right-to-work states compared to non-right-to-work states.
No, absolutely. Those basic numbers that I said before that we see just from a raw comparison, that you see faster employment growth overall, that basic fact also holds for construction, manufacturing, and mining specifically as well.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Okay. John Deskins, head of WVU's Bureau of Business and Economic Research in the College of Business and Economics, the economic impact of right-to-work policy in West Virginia, presented to the legislature. And no doubt, when the legislature convenes in January, I feel certain that Republican leaders will bring up legislation to bring about right-to-work in West Virginia. John, thank you for coming on. It's always good to talk to you, and I appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you so much for having me. Always good to talk to you. Look forward to next time.
Thank you, John Deskins. So some key findings there in that study. Here in West Virginia, there are two great jackpot games you can play from the West Virginia Lottery. Powerball has drawings on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Mega Millions has drawings on Tuesdays and Fridays. The Powerball jackpot is $70 million. The Mega Millions jackpot is $20 million. Please play responsibly. We'll be right back.
Constantly checking your business checking? Switching to an MVB Bank Foundation business checking account makes your cash management easier with no minimum balance, no monthly service fees, up to 500 free transactions per month, and access to MVB where you work. Visit MVBbanking.com to see how MVB Bank helps you build a foundation for your business. MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC. Transactions are checks paid and deposited and ACH debits. $50 minimum deposit to open, 20 cents for each transaction over 500.
This Saturday, the West Virginia University Mountaineers travel to Kansas for another Big 12 matchup. Join MetroNews for the best, most listened to game day coverage. The pregame fun starts at 9 a.m. with the Jeep Gold and Blue Countdown, followed by the Sports Brunch. Game line kicks off at high noon. Then postgame analysis begins at 3 with the Gold and Blue Wrap-Up, brought to you by the West Virginia Oil and Natural Gas Association. Don't miss game day coverage at its best, beginning Saturday morning at 9, right here on Metro News, the voice of West Virginia.
Hi, it's Tony Caridi. If you're in a business or organization that needs visual help, then let's get together and talk. For more than a decade now, those of us at Pikewood Creative have embraced the opportunity to help people just like you tell their story visually. Whether it's a video, commercial, animation, or motion graphics piece, we produce content that make others take notice. We help people increase their business and organizations better tell their story. If you need help, then contact us at pikewoodcreative.com.
This is Talkline on Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
There. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
Doing great.
Let's start with this, and this is very hot right now, and a number of states has said that they're not going to take, or they're going to stand up against taking any Syrian immigrants. Can they do that?
Well, they can try, but no, legally they can't. The Refugee Act of 1980, says that governors cannot legally block refugees. It also sets up a state refugee coordinator, that's paid by the feds. So that's all done for resettlement. But legally, no, they can't. They can try to press the pause button, which is, I think, exactly what they're trying to do, and run this up the flag through the courtrooms. But eventually it'll come through that, no, under this law, unless the laws change, that they can't do it.
Well, how would the federal government just, give me an analogy. What kind of thing, how does the federal government do that where states just say, well, they can't do anything? Would they...
Well, the Supremacy Clause of the Constitution says that things that aren't, specifically set out for the states are left to the federals, or vice versa. The feds don't take, And the feds have we have taken immigration. We've seen that in Arizona. We've seen that for the last couple of years in these fights. We've taken immigration. So unless they can make the argument, they being the states, the governors, can say, as they did try to in Arizona, look, this is a public safety issue. Mm-hmm. We're worried about our citizens. We get the Supremacy Clause. We get that you have control over this, but we have a legitimate reason to be worried about the safety of our citizens. Then they might have more of an argument. It's a tough one to make, though, because I think still the feds will supersede. Now, that what I think it may do politically, though, is put more pressure on the federal government to vet these people better, right? Because that's really been the problem. I think that most of us would agree, look, if you vetted someone, 6 ways to Sunday, and they're, fine and they love America and love Americans and all that and everything is good and no criminal history and nothing, fine, upstanding citizen, and just really trying to flee from Syria, then we'd probably say, well, okay. But we don't know that about people. That's the problem.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think people know. I mean, there's a natural and I think understandable level of concern by people, but also you don't know what the vetting process is.
Exactly.
I mean, you don't know.
Exactly. When we've got a woman blowing herself up there in Paris this morning, so you can't just say, oh, let the women and the children. And we know that kids as young as 10 have detonated bombs, suicide bombs. I mean, it's just a crazy world we live in, and I think at least from a political perspective, what the governors can be doing is saying, feds, do your job. And right now we don't see that, and we don't have any confidence in the people that you're letting in right now.
Yeah. Okay, Lise Wheel is with us, Fox News legal analyst. Let's move on. A pilot sues Allegiant Airlines for malicious firing after an emergency evacuation. What happened here?
Oh, this is crazy. Yeah, on June 8th, the pilot said, look, I'm smelling smoke in the cabin. He makes an emergency landing in a small airport in Florida. All is fine there. He still smells smoke, though. He gets confirmation that his number one engine is smoking. Okay, then a voice comes on the radio, unidentified, says, don't evacuate. Voice does not come back, doesn't say anything after that. He's sitting there in a plane with 141 people, and his number one engine is smoking. He makes the decision, I think a rational one, to say, hey, let's get everybody off this. Let's evacuate. Let's pull the chutes down, whatever we do to get these people off. And months later, he's fired because they said, well, he didn't follow orders. Meanwhile, if I'm one of those 141 people, I am just I'm saying, get me off this plane. And I looked at the code. I would like to be this guy's lawyer because I looked at the code for pilots. Okay. This is in a section 14 CPR. Well, 121. If you got anyone wants to look it up. Okay.
Yeah, look it up at home.
Look it up. A pilot may take any action that he considers necessary under the circumstances and may deviate from prescribed operation procedures to the extent required in the interest of safety of his passengers and crew.
Yeah, he or she's in charge. He or she's in charge.
That's what they're pilots.
Yeah.
And the pilot is saying, here, look, you, airline, you were thinking of your, quote, company's assets, ground equipment, fuel, and the personnel time of your employees. You weren't thinking about the people on the plane. He's making that argument.
Hey, as always, I love curveballs. I'm going to throw you a curveball. We got this big case going on right now with Don Blankenship, former co-executive, who's actually being charged criminally with mine safety violations. But just generally speaking, when a case goes to the jury, do you think that juries, generally speaking, will really try hard to follow literally the letter of the law, the instructions exactly? Or do you think sometimes juries will say, you know what? We're going to do this.
They are told to follow the letter of the law by the judge. And it's called jury nullification if you try to tell them anything else, you being a prosecutor or the defendant. But jurors are people too. And they, if they hate somebody, if they absolutely hate a defendant, on the other hand, if they absolutely love a defendant and feel sympathy for a defendant, empathy for the defendant, they will try hard either to convict or not to convict based on that. And that's just, I can't prove that. There are no studies that show that. But that's just, come on, that's just human beings talking to human beings.
Got it. Lise Wheel, Fox News legal analyst. Always a pleasure. Thank you for coming on. Good to talk to you. All right, you too. Now, when we come back, and that, who knows whether this will happen in this case or not. We don't know. We won't know until after the verdict, and then if any of those jurors are willing to, and they can if they choose, are willing to talk with folks after the verdict. This is Talkline on MetroNews, the voice of West Virginia. 11:30, let's get a news update. Check in with the Metro News Radio Network. Find out what's happening statewide this hour all across the great state of West Virginia.
West Virginia Metro News, I'm Chris Lawrence. The jury has returned to the federal courthouse in Charleston for deliberations in the Don Blankenship criminal trial. The former Massey CEO allegedly conspired to break mine safety laws, then allegedly lied to federal investigators and regulators following the explosion. Metro News legal analyst Harvey Payton's take on the case now that it's in the hands of the jury.
At the end of the day, I don't think anyone will dispute, regardless of the outcome, that this is a just prosecution. It wasn't made up out of thin air.
Metro News is in the courtroom awaiting the verdict, and when it comes down, we'll have an update at WVMetroNews.com. Sherry Kenny DuPoy's brother Boone Payne was killed at UBB, and she had this to say after the jury got the case yesterday.
It is. Yeah. It's really about accountability. That's all we want is accountability. I mean, I'd like to see a 30-year sentence, but whatever we get, we'll be thankful for. It'll be a little bit because we've got 29 men underground that could put him under.
UBB victims' family members have been sitting on the front row of the courtroom for the duration of the trial. 3 people were injured in a morning collision in Kanawha County between a pickup truck and a school bus. Happened in the community of Mammoth in eastern Kanawha County. None of those injured were children. State police have identified a man who was struck and killed by a train in Berkeley County back on Monday night. The victim was 56-year-old Scott Kammer of Martinsburg. State police are unsure why he was on the tracks at the time. He was struck and killed instantly. You're listening to Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
Business owners know it's hard to find quality employees. If your business is growing and you need to hire trained, eager staff, MetroNews can help with a recruitment campaign. If you need professionals or skilled tradespeople, if you're having a job fair or are searching for a uniquely qualified person for a special position, MetroNews is ready to help you execute a successful campaign. Best of all, MetroNews can broadcast your search statewide or narrow it to a certain region. For more information on how MetroNews can help your employee recruitment be successful, call Joe Parsons at 304-346-7055, 304-346-7055, or email jparsons@wvmetronews.com. That's jparsons@wvmetronews.com. Metro News and your business working together to elevate our state's economy and make your company a success. Call 304-346-7055 or email jparsons@wvmetronews.com.
The buck season opens Monday, and for the first time, deer hunters will check in their deer electronically rather than with the age-old check station. This will require all hunters, including those who don't need a license, like landowners, senior citizens, and youth, to have their own DNR ID number.
It's extremely convenient. You're talking less than a 4-minute phone call. By the time it takes you to basically get out your field tag, you've already checked the animal.
That's the DNR's Chris Ryan. Hunters can get their ID number at wvhunt.com, at a licensed retailer, or any DNR office. From the Metro News Anchor Desk, I'm Chris Lawrence.
Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank, member FDIC. Last week we had on Nikki Izzo-Brown, the head coach of the West Virginia women's soccer team, just before their game against Duquesne in the first round of the NCAA tournament. And they won the game. They won the match. I think it was 4-0. So we figure that is good luck. So we're trying to keep it going. We got Coach Brown on again this morning. So, Coach, I'm taking full credit for that win because you were on this show before you knocked off Duquesne. So we're going to try to keep it going until you get right to the championship.
Absolutely. At this point of the season, you are my good luck charm. I'll take as many as I can, and I'll come on every time so we keep advancing.
Got it. Well, so this weekend you potentially play 2. How's it work this weekend?
Yeah. So what'll happen is this is Friday night at 6 is the round of 32. If we advance, then on Sunday we play the Sweet 16. And then the following week we would be in the Elite 8.
Okay, and the 2 matches this weekend are at Dick Delesk, right?
Yes, and we have Minnesota and LMU playing also, and then we'd play the winner of that if we were to beat Northwestern.
Yeah, but it's single elimination, right? So you got to beat Northwestern before you play again on Sunday, correct?
Yep, do or die, baby.
Okay, so you beat Duquesne pretty handily. What do you know about Northwestern?
They're in the Big Ten. They're gritty. They've obviously played a tough schedule. They're going to present problems. For us, they have a leading goal scorer. She's got 9 on the season right now. They're front runner, so she's fast. She's tough. So it's going to be a good matchup. But we've played a lot of games in the Big Ten, and we've seen some of common opponents. So. In the game of soccer, it's cruel, but it's going to be a great game on Friday.
Yeah, and you probably had a good crowd last Friday. You want folks to come out this Friday and that. And I know you talked about it last week that helps when you got the crowd and they get into it.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was really a whole lot of fun for us when Duquesne brought a couple buses down, and our fans were going at their fans. So we appreciated that and just the intensity of that pride in the stands. So absolutely, we need a crowd behind us. We need them cheering loud and making sure that any extra motivation will be important.
West Virginia's Nikki Izzo-Brown, head coach of the women's soccer team, and they face number 23 Northwestern coming up Friday evening, 6 o'clock, and then if they win, they advance to play Sunday again at Dick Gillespie, the winner of the Minnesota Loyola Marymount game. I'm told, and your PR people, Shannon does a great job. She gave me all these stats, but then she kind of said, but don't use them because they get flipped out when you say them, but I can't help it. So if you win Friday, that would give you a program record 18 victories, the most since 2010. WVU's finished with 18 wins 3 times, 2010, 2007, 2002. But then Shannon said, but they don't like to talk about that because it jinxes them. So you want to talk about it or not?
I'll tell you what, when you're in athletics, you get so superstitious, and it's maddening how crazy we all get. And this is the thing. This team wants to be special. We've tied the shutout record. So in my 20 years here, this team has said, and they've stepped it up, and they've said, well, we're one of the best defensive teams, according to the record books. Mm-hmm. Now what that 18 win would do for us would put them at another notch for wins. So, again, being superstitious, the reality is if they do it, they're going to have it, and they're going to claim they're special, and this team really wants that to happen.
Yeah, I know the coaches always feel the pressure. How much pressure do you think that your women feel to make it even that much more special? Or do they just loosey-goosey, they go play, they don't know, they don't care?
They're pretty determined bunch, and they're pretty gritty about it. And they're so determined because you have that senior class where they know if you fall short what that feeling is, and they want to do everything they can to protect that awful feeling of losing and not achieving what they set out to do. And this team wanted to continue to advance and make a run at it. So, and I know they do not want to lose at home. So that's going to be another added bonus here for us moving forward. But this team and the seniors and the mentality of this group, we are going to fight, and we're going to fight for our destiny to keep advancing, and it's going to be an absolute battle.
Yeah. So you do anything to keep them? So are you tight, or do you try to do things to be not tight going into the game, or what? How do you approach it?
I find myself extremely humorous. I'm the only one that thinks that I'm funny, but I do try to keep things light, and I try to keep training light but intense. And once we get there and the whistle blows, then it's just all positive and doing what we know we can do. But I try to keep it light. These kids want to achieve. No kid wants to drop a football or miss a goal or do anything like that. But at the end of the day, too, you need to bring that intensity. So I find that I'm funny but also intense.
Tell us about your ladies. Are they going to be? Because at some point their soccer days will be over. There is professional soccer now, but and you have Olympians. But at some point they'll go on to the next phase of their life. What about your ladies? What are they? How confident are you they'll be successful in the next phase of their life?
Oh, these seniors are, I keep saying special, but so special. Amanda Hill is, a lot of professional coaches have contacted me about Amanda playing, and she wants to go to vet school, and she's focused on that. I have Leah Mewis, who is applied to med school. Kaylee Utley wants to go on and be an eye doctor. It goes on and on with these seniors. So I know Hannah wants to be an academic advisor at the college level, and Kelsey wants to be a teacher. So it's incredible, and I'm so fortunate that not only do they have choices if they want to go in the professional arena to play, soccer, but they also have their, everything in line to be great professionals in whatever field they want to choose.
We wish you much good luck. You got another big game. It's Friday night, 6 o'clock, Dick Gillespie Soccer Stadium, taking on Northwestern. If you win, then the game is Sunday. Will be at 1 o'clock on Sunday, where you would take on the winner of Loyola Marymount and Minnesota. Coach Nikki O'Brien, again, good having you on again this week. Good luck, and keep it going.
Awesome. Hoppy, I got one question.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Saturday, if we win, after we win Friday, will I get to be on Saturday?
Yeah.
You're my good luck charm. I'm just making sure.
Yeah. You know what?
Negotiating on the phone.
That we can do that because we got our whole game coverage. Absolutely. In fact, you know what? You come in and be our in-studio guest for a segment.
You got it.
All right. Well, then we'll see you Saturday, okay?
All right. Sounds good, Hoppy. Have a great one.
Thanks, Coach. Yeah, we can do that. Coach Nikki O'Brien, she'll join us Saturday after the win on Friday. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Stupid pipe! Oh, no.
Honey, are you all right?
There's a time and a place to do things yourself, but there are some things that should be left to the professionals. When it comes to building your dream home, remodeling the bathroom, rewiring the kitchen, or fixing the furnace, you need the best help and the best materials you can get. That's when you need to go to the Home Builders Association of West Virginia. Their members are skilled professionals and retailers specializing in your home. It's your home. Don't settle for anything less than the best.
Contact the Home Builders Association of West Virginia online at hbawv.org for a list of licensed professionals and suppliers in your area. Go to hbawv.org today. This message brought to you by our marketing partners, Lowe's of North Central West Virginia, Brick Street, 84 Lumber, Federal Home Loan Bank of Pittsburgh, ProBuild, SJ Neathog, Valcon, Wincor, and West Virginia Housing Development Fund. The Home Builders Association of West Virginia. Go to hbawv.org today.
True to its motto, wild and wonderful, West Virginia is the third most forested state in the country for landmass and has 7 million more forested acres now than 100 years ago. The mountain state is abundantly blessed with valuable renewable forest resources, which naturally regenerate for future generations. Forestry is the basis for over 5,000 separate wood and paper products, creating millions of dollars in state revenue from business income and property taxes. A message from the West Virginia Forestry Association, WVFA.org.
You're listening to Talkline on Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
There. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank, member FDIC. Open phones and comments the rest of the way at 1-800-765-8255. Email talkline@wvmetronews.com. Tweet me at Hoppy Kercheval. Text me 304-TALK-304. So what do you think the jury will do in the Blankenship case? And what do you want the jury to do in the Blankenship case? As to what I think the jury's... I hate to say this because you, as a talk show host, you want to take sides, but I don't know, because I think Harvey's right. I think that the federal government got enough in there to show that Blankenship was a hands-on guy at UBB, getting production reports every half hour, and that when there were requests to him for certain measures to be taken to improve safety, that he did not do all he could to improve safety at the mine. And I keep coming back to this point, that would UBB have happened? Would the place have exploded if they had done a better job with safety at the mine? And the lay conclusion is no, that if they had done a better job controlling the ventilation at the mine, controlling the dust at the mine, making sure that the continuous miner, that the bits were all on properly, if they had done all the things they should be doing, would UBB have exploded? And certainly the chances of that happening would be reduced significantly. And Blankenship was a hands-on guy. He was not a detached guy. He was a hands-on guy. So it would be, in my thinking, pretty reasonable for the jury to connect those dots and have Blankenship bear responsibility for what happened at UBB. So we'll see what this jury comes back with. 1-800-765-8255, 1-800-765-TALK. Email talkline@wvmetronews.com. And I'm going a lot there by what Harvey said, because Harvey's been in there almost every day, and it's tough to make a judgment unless you're in there every day hearing all the evidence. But again, and you hate to come back to this point, but you just don't know what a jury's going to do. You just don't know. I mean, are they going to take those instructions and look at it just so literally that they're going to say, yeah, that doesn't really constitute a conspiracy. Yes, he had knowledge of it. Yes, he might have even given tacit approval of it, but did he really participate in a conspiracy to willfully violate it? So, and that weighs in favor of the defense. At the same time, the entire trial, there have been family members sitting there in the first row and in the gallery. So you see them, and when there's emotional testimony, you see them crying. So are you going to go back in the jury room? And how much is that going to weigh on you? I don't know. That's not a cop-out. You don't know. You would think, however, that since the defense rested without calling a single witness, that they have some degree of confidence that they were able to establish reasonable doubt through prosecution witnesses. And, boy, you get back in that jury room and you start thinking about reasonable doubt, and all you need out of 12 is one strong-willed individual to say they didn't prove the case. I know that this happened and that happened, but the federal government did. That's all you need. That's all you need. Denny in Mercer County on the Blankenship trial. Hey, Denny, thanks for calling and waiting. Welcome to Metro News Talkline. What do you think?
Well, I think that we wouldn't be here had there not been an explosion.
Right.
And I do not think we would have had the explosion had MSHA not forced them into lowering airflow rates across the face of the mine. Therefore, we wouldn't be here at all.
But there was, that was always the argument that MSHA forced the airflow to be different in the mine.
Right.
But and I'm not sure, I don't know what the evidence showed in the trial about that.
Well, you see, that's just it. They wouldn't let them introduce that on the defense side, but they got it in somewhat via the other side on one of these inspector things.
Yeah.
Because there was a similar mine that they were discussing at the same time in Pennsylvania that did not lower their airflow rates according to MSHA. They stayed high, and they still not had that problem.
Thus suggesting that MSHA bears a portion of responsibility for the explosion.
Correct.
Yeah. What do you think the jury's going to do?
It'll be an acquittal because I don't think they're going to get 12 that will agree to, guilt.
Yeah. Yeah.
There'll be at least one out of 12.
Yeah, that's the thing too, is that you need, as I have looked at this, and we've talked about this thing every day, and listen to Harvey Payton every day on this, and you can, and even Harvey, who's out there every day, is you can go, well, you can make that argument, well, you can make that argument. I mean, it can go either way. It can go either way. I've seen a lot of trials, you go, okay, it's just a matter of time. They're going to come back and they're going to ring this person up. But this thing could go either way. Even after all that testimony, that's what Harvey thinks as well. Thanks for the call. 1-800-765-8255. Marlene wants to weigh in from Mount Morris on the Syrian refugees. Hi, Marlene. Thanks for calling and waiting. Go ahead.
That's okay. Well, Hoppy, I just got back from France the day before all that
Really?
broke loose.
Oh,
yes,
my goodness.
I did. Yes. Normally I fly back through Paris whenever I come back, but I didn't want to go that way this time, so I ended up through Madrid. So
Okay.
I'm counting my blessings.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But while I was there, I did go over to San Remo, Italy, which I've done several times. And when you get back to this place called Ventimiglia, you have to change trains. Well, when I got ready to get on the train, it stopped, and it was coming in, I think, from Milan. And all of these young men jumped off the train. And I thought that was a little strange. But anyway, I got on, and the principal in me came out from the past. And these guys all jumped back on the train at the last minute. And as we started along our way, in a few minutes, they came on and said we were going to make a stop at a place called Minton, and that we needed to just stay on, don't open the doors. It was a service call. Well, there was this one gentleman that was sitting across the aisle from me, and he was a young guy, and he looked about like any college student at WVU, basically. And they, when the train stopped there, all these armed police got on and started taking these people off one at a time and had them lined up outside the train, except they didn't get the guy across the aisle from me. And I knew he was in on it because I'd seen him talking to these guys that jumped off and on the train. So anyway, they had, I don't know, several young men and only one woman in them. And I could see the police shaking these people down out there, and inside of this one gentleman's coat in his lapel, they felt something, and they took out this piece of paper and opened it up and read it to see what was there. Well, the train started back up. We went on toward Nice, but some guy from the back of the train comes up and starts talking to this young man that's still sitting there beside of me. Of course, I'm looking them all over. And the guy that was beside of me told him to get to the back of the train. I knew that's what he was doing, get to the back of the train and stay there. And so when we came on into Nice, these two guys were together then and got off the train. Of course, I'm going my way, but it happened to be the same way they were going. And that gentleman kept looking back at me as if I was stalking him or something. And when we went out to get on the bus, he'd asked the bus driver where something was in French. He could speak French. And she pointed in some direction, and they went on their way.
So just to move it along, I get your story.
Yes,
So what happened?
Well, those two got loose. But the rest of them, the police rounded all of them up and kept them. And they all, I'm sorry, looked like those young men were seen on the TV set coming out as refugees from Syria. And none of them carrying any baggage. Mm-hmm. And the one guy, he smelled like maybe he'd been out there for quite some time. I don't mean it's just someone who hadn't had a bath for a long period of time. I could tell that. But anyway, it just was very awakening that that's the kind of stuff that's going on over there.
Well, thanks for the call. I mean, we group. I'll be back in a minute. Stay with us.
Trading in your business fleet or personal vehicle for a new one? Donate your used vehicle to Good News Mountaineer Garage and get the best tax deduction possible and the satisfaction of knowing your donation changed the life of someone in need. Good News Mountaineer Garage repairs donated vehicles and provides them to qualified West Virginia families, giving them access to employment, safe, affordable housing, health care, and other vital necessities, and putting them on the road to economic independence. Call 1-866-GIVE-CAR today for Good News Mountaineer Garage. 866-GIVE-CAR.
The event you've been waiting for is here, the Northside Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Truck Black Friday Blockbuster Sales Event. Northside's pulling out all the stops with huge incentives and ultra-low percentage rates. You can buy a 2015 Town & Country minivan and get 0% financing for 75 months and up to $2,500 in rebates. Yes, I said $2,500 in rebates. Hurry to Northside Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Trucks, your central West Virginia destination for savings. Visit on the web at northsidewv.com.
Hello, I'm your neighbor.
Your sister.
Your son.
Your granddaughter.
I was broken, hungry,
Helpless and hopeless.
Catholic Charities reached out to me in hope, faith, and love.
They were there in my time of need, and they'll be there for you.
No matter how old or young you are, Catholic Charities of West Virginia offers hope, help, and love for all ages. Visit CatholicCharitiesWV.org and find your hope today. Catholic Charities West Virginia is an equal opportunity employer and service provider.
This is Talkline on Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
There. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
One of the best traditions of the holiday is the lighting of the Christmas tree. This year, take your whole family to Martinsburg. Join friends, neighbors, and visitors November 27th as Martinsburg celebrates the holiday season with the hometown Christmas tree lighting on the square. It's a great tradition here in wild, wonderful West Virginia. It's going to be November 27th, 6 o'clock in the town square. Santa's going to be there, so check it out. Now, if a bank was robbed, or there was a terrible crime somewhere, and the police all across this country said, we're looking for white males, approximately 60 years old, with facial hair, and they're driving a black vehicle, that's me. I might be pulled over because there would be there would be a valid reason to check me. So I get that. That's not being pejorative. That's saying, okay, that's a reasonable approach. Point being that with what's happening, with the fact that at least one of the attackers came in with the Syrian refugees, it is reasonable that people coming from Syria to wherever, that they would be subject to additional scrutiny. That's a reasonable approach to all of this. Not like, well, stop everybody or send them all back, whatever, but just if you're going to, you got to do something with these folks. But it's certainly logical, given what has happened, that there would be a more thorough vetting of people who come from that direction. That's not racist or bigoted or an overreaction. That is simply a reasonable approach to what has happened in Paris. All right, we got a break. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. This has been Talkline on Metro News, the voice of West Virginia.